blue is in effect right now in New York City, and it is expected to last through Sunday.
Oh, fuck that. It's cold as shit outside. I'm not going anywhere. Um, let's do this. Let's do something that I'm gonna call story time. I kind of really started already, but I just never gave it a title. Basically, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna sit down for a few minutes, and talk to you guys about a little about me, about my past, so you guys can get caught up with my present. In the spirit of Valentine's Day, I'm gonna talk about love. Now, I'm supposed to be having this whole anti-Valentine's Day thing, but it's the day before Valentine's Day, so technically it doesn't count. Um, but I've only really been in love twice. Um, and I'm saying love because I thought I was in love before, but I was young. I didn't know what love really meant. But the two times that I know for sure I was in love, um, it was to two people. The first person was Remy, who's actually now a good friend, and the second one, who I'm gonna call actually the love of my life, my ex colleague. Let's start with Remy. I met Remy through my best friend Caesar. Um, I met him has to be like a good 10 years ago now, and no, it has to be maybe a little more than that, maybe a little bit more than that. But for me, it was love at first sight. I like the moment I met him, I fell in love with him. Um, Actually, no, let me backtrack to that. Maybe not the moment I met him, because the moment I met him, I kind of ignored him. Let me build the whole thing. So, I had just started working for Macy's. I think I had maybe been 9 months into my job, something like that. And I do remember that it was cold outside. I want to say it was definitely January. It was January. I met him in January. It was in January, and it was cold, but nothing like what it is today. Like, this is just ridiculous. Um, Me and Caesar, we always had this thing where, especially on the weekends, that we would get together, hang out, and do something, anything, just whatever, just to hang out, just so we can stay in contact and keep our friendship going. Um, this particular day, he calls me, which wasn't out the norm. Like, hey, are you at work? Yeah, of course. He said, what time do you get off? I said, well, I get off in about an hour. He said, okay, cool. I'm close by. He said, I'll come by the mall and then we'll head out. I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. At this point, he hadn't told me that he had his friend with him. So he gets to my job, and I'm finishing up with a customer, and I see him, and we hugging and everything, start talking, and like we start getting into it, and then I notice that there's this person like walking back and forth like behind him. So I'm like, hold on. So I'm like, excuse me, do you need help? And because I am at work still and behind the counter. He's like, oh no, I'm with him. I'm like, oh. So I'm like, well, Caesar, like, who is this? So he introduces us and everything, and so I'm like, well, I said, if you don't mind, I said, I want to get something. I said, before we leave, I want to get something to eat. Do you mind going to the food court? So everybody was like, yeah, fine, no, cool, no problem. So we go, we get some Wendy's. We're sitting in the food court, we're talking and hamming it up. Remy's starting to come out his shell, and then that's when pretty much like once I started really paying attention to him, that's when I fell in love with him. Um, at least I started to fall in love with him. At least I should say. Uh, so I was like, well, since you're hanging out with us now, I said, what are you doing tonight? He said nothing. I said, okay. I said, well, me and Caesar, we're just gonna go to the city and hang out. I said, I was like, do you want to come with us? He was like, sure, no problem. You said you guys seem like dumb fun. So I'm like, okay, well, I said, I want to go home first and change my clothes. I want to get out my work clothes and put on some regular clothes. I said, then we can book it. I said, I live close to the A train, and we can just book it from there. So he's like, cool, no problem. So we get to so between the time we leave the mall on the bus at that, because I wasn't driving at this point, until the time we get to Jamaica, somehow, some way, Keith calls. Now, and I'm talking about my best friend Keith, one of the big three. So what you guys don't know is Caesar and Keith dated. Yes, I know that's really messy. They dated, and at that time they were currently dating. Actually, I think they had just gotten like really into the relationship. I think they hadn't been really dating for like more than like a couple of months. So somehow, Keith meets up with us and he comes to my house, and we get on the A train and everything, and we head to the city, and Keith and Caesar, they're all booed up, and then so me and Remy are just left to talk to each other, and then we're getting to know each other, and then I noticed that like we're talking, and then like he puts his legs on my leg, and we're like really close, and we're talking, and basically the chemistry's building, like it's going. Um, so we had no plan. Like I said, we had no specific plans to go to the city, and so we was like, well, let's go to the Virgin Megastore. Let's go to the cafe, that we went to before. Because back then, okay, if you've been to New York recently, Forever 21's new flagship store in Times Square was actually the old Virgin Megastore, and nothing in there has changed. Like the whole structure is pretty much the same. So at the very very bottom was a cafe that Virgin Megastore used to have, which Forever 21 doesn't have anymore. But you can go down there, hang out, and be down there for hours. They wouldn't bother you, which probably why they went out of business. But so we were there hanging out in the beanbag chairs, and again, Keith and Caesar were over there in their own corner doing their own thing, and me and Remy were talking, and we're getting really really close, and then I don't know when it happened, but next thing I know, like we've like been kissing for hours and hours and hours, and yeah, pretty much that's like how our relationship started. Um, and we were like really hot and heavy really really fast. He had told me that, so I'm gonna jump ahead. So we spent Valentine's Day together, which is fine. And then we, maybe like a little bit after Valentine's Day, he tells me that his ex came around. At this time he was still in high school, and I had been 2 years out of high school. He was in his senior year, and he was like told me that his ex had popped up at the school, and they started talking, and he said it just it confused him. So I was like, what do you mean it confused you? I'm like, I got really defensive, and basically, long story short, he felt that he had feelings for his ex still, and I just decided, I was like, if you have feelings for your ex, I want no part to that. I don't want to be the person on the sideline waiting to figure out if, what you're gonna do. So I was like, we need to break. We need a break. And he was like, no, we don't need a break. I said, well, listen, you're telling me that you think you have feelings for your ex. Like, I mean, and from what I know, like they were together for a while. I said, and I think that was his first too. So I said, stuff like that you don't really get over. I said that's not something you easily get over. So I was like, you know what? I said, you take some time and figure out what you're gonna do. I said, I'm gonna take some time to figure out what I'm gonna do. So that break lasted all of 3 days, and he calls me. He's like, hey, can you come over? And I'm like, sure, no problem. Cause I'm not gonna front, like I missed the hell out of him. So we're at his house, and we're talking, and we're talking, and we're talking, and then we go get breakfast, and we're talking some more, and we go get lunch, and we're talking some more. And I was like, you know what, like, I mean, I kind of already had it in my head that I was like, that this might not work. So long story short, we broke up. And it was bad, and he was crying, and whatever. So let's fast forward like 2 weeks. Now we're sometime in March, and he's like, hey, I really miss you. Can you come over? And I missed him too. So like we hung out again, and I knew once I got there, once I seen him, once I hugged him, once I smelled him, I was like, this is gonna be the last time that I'm ever really gonna see him. And that was it. That was the last time. Like even though I broke up with him, my heart was severely broken. Like it took a while for me to get over him. But then like I said, we broke up in March, and we pretty much ended in March, like for sure, like for good, for final, and cut to like a couple months later, I find out I have kidney disease, and it's end stage, and I'm blind, and it's a mess. But yeah, I guess we broke up for a good reason, because I don't know if he could have handled all that. Like hell, I don't know how I handled it. So I don't know if he could have handled it at that moment in time. Alright, I know I said I wasn't going anywhere, but I forgot I was taking my brother right there to get his sneakers. So I had to brave the cold. But this store's actually nice. Alright, so that other store didn't have the sneakers in his size. We're at Green Acres. I'm hoping one of these stores have it. So fingers crossed. Alright, let's try Champ, see what happens with this. Alright, they're sold out, forget that. Foot Locker next? Sorry. Foot Locker next? Foot Locker next. Alright, let's see what happens. Yeah. They might have them. They might have them, so let's see. Oh, by the way, he's getting a pair of Jordans. I've never really been a huge fan of Jordans. I have a couple of Jordans, but I only get the ones. So these, I think, are the 4s that are coming out. The guy's going to check right now. My fingers are crossed because not for nothing, when me and him were in the mall the other day, he asked me if she'd get the ticket, and I told him no, because I thought we were going to someplace else to get them, and then clearly that place was sold out. So I feel bad as shit now. So I'm hoping they have them here. I'm so happy they fucking have them. I feel better, because not for nothing, I know he was pissed. He was saying it's okay if they don't have them, it's okay if they don't have them, but I'm glad they have them. All right, so he's getting these sneakers. What are these, the 4s? Right? So these are the 4s. That's the ones he's getting. He's freaking happy. I guess we get online right here. So he's good.